Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us. Once again, my name is Chris Jagger. I'm the fiction book buyer here at Baker Book House. Tonight, we're being joined by Denise Hunter, and we are going to be discussing her soon to release Autumn Skies and several of her other titles and a lot of behind the scene things. So, as we wait for Denise to join us, we'll get started soon. And there she is. Hi, Denise.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm just fine. How are you doing over there in Grand Rapids?
Good, good. Finally, the rain has stopped, so we're a little less wet than we were. Just cold, but
Yes. Well, the rain came our way.
oh, good. Well, hopefully you needed it. So
We
I know
did.
we did. So, but one little thing I want to mention: if you were going to join us on Facebook, I know we're having issues with Facebook. So sorry about that, but please just stay with us on Zoom, and we will get hopefully that going on the live stream also. So sorry about that, Denise, but
It
Facebook
happens.
is, yeah, on Facebook every once in a while just gets funny about it. So who knows why? So, but I will tell you, I have enjoyed your Bluebell in series. I was privileged to be able to read Autumn Skies early and thoroughly enjoyed the ending to it. I have to ask, I want to talk about the book. I do. But where do you get the idea for like the inn and even the town? I mean, I want to live there.
Well, lake towns are really neat communities, and my husband and I happen to own a lake home. We bought our lake home, it was maybe 7 years ago. And ever since then, I've kind of had this idea for a lake town novel or series in the back of my head because there are just so many neat things about the history of that particular lake, which I have incorporated into Bluebell, and that was fun to do. And also just it's a really neat kind of community where the residents are tight, but um, locals or residents have all the tourists flooding the town in the summer, and so it's just a very unique type of setup. And the inn itself, the idea for a lot of the things that happen at the end, the lost love letter in Lake Season and the lost heirloom necklace in Carolina Breeze, kind of stems from a real life experience. So my husband and I were we were rehabbing our lake home, and I mean, I'm talking all the way down to the studs here, and this place has been there since it had to go. I mean, it had been there since 1920 something, and it was in pretty rough shape. So we were taking it all the way down to the studs, and when we removed the walls, what we found behind the walls was writing all over the wood underneath. It was almost
Really?
like kind of a guest book for the people who had stayed there in the 20s and 30s. So there were names and towns of where they came from. Sometimes they'd add another line about what they were doing there. And amongst those signatures, we found a couple of signatures from people whom we know of as gangsters. John Dillinger, yes, and
Really?
really, we were so excited. Just I'm a historical buff, and we're actually known to be in that area, um, because it was like it's south of Chicago, where the lake home is, and they were known to travel through the area, and in fact robbed an armory not too far away from where the lake home is. There's no proof that they were at that lake, but I thought, wow, maybe this is the proof they were here. And so I contacted a couple of experts on those particular gangster members, and both of them said they don't think that the signatures were legitimate, and that it was maybe just people from that day, joking around and whatnot. But I still know that it can still be true. It might still be true, but that whole finding of something that was could have been significant really kicked off the creativity. I was just at that time trying to come up with an idea for my lake town, and that just set the whole thing off. So even if the signatures weren't real, it was definitely worth it.
You know what? That's awesome. I'm glad I asked. I really am. What a way to start.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
I bet that's really neat because I know originally when my husband and I moved back to Michigan, we moved into an old farmhouse and we took up some old carpeting, and there was somebody had written Bible verses on the wood floor.
Aw,
We couldn't read them that well, but it's just kind of a neat thing.
yeah,
So,
it is.
and nothing as exciting as that. So,
Well,
well,
there's
that's
just
kind of
something
cool.
special about finding something that somebody left behind years before.
Yeah. So, so tell us about Autumn Skies and the ending to, um, for lack of a better word, but delightful series. Because I mean, I feel like family with those kids.
Yeah, I do too. I was very sad to let them go. They live on in my heart, but I do miss them. As you know, I'm sure I've long since moved on to. I've got another book finished, and well, another one almost finished. So when I actually wrote it, I turned it in about a year ago. So, but I love talking about them again, and I love that my readers are gonna soon experience the story. So basically, it's about a troubled Secret Service agent who shows up at Grace's Inn looking for help, and his appearance there leads her on a journey that is going to change her life forever. It turns out they've got some things in common that they didn't know about. If those of you who have read the first two books in the series know that when the protagonist or the love interest shows up at the end, something is going to be found at that end. And in the first two stories, what they found was more tangible. In this story, the hero is there looking for something. It's less tangible, but very meaningful. And I think the readers are going to like it. And I really enjoyed the way the story wrapped up, and the way it wrapped up the series. I just felt like I wanted to give my readers that wonderful feeling at the end of a series where they're just saying goodbye to the characters, and just moved and happy. I wanted it to be a very happy feeling with them, even though they're having to end the series.
Yeah, that is a good description of that ending. I almost blurted something out there, so I wait. You can't say that.
No spoilers.
Quick, mute her. Well, I need a 10-second delay from now on. So, but
You
and
want-
I agree. I think you did that very well with that series because it does. It has that good feel to it. So I have to admit, all your books have that good feel to it, but you take on these issues in there. I'm trying to think. I mean, even in this one, with the troubled Secret Service guy and such, and I know it happens real quick at the beginning, so we know a little bit about him. So a spoiler, but in the first chapter, where he is, got these issues from childhood. Um, and I think I love that you include those in stories, and um, that we as readers can learn from that, if not deal with our own. um, so I got to ask, since he's Secret Service, did you interview any Secret Service or not?
I didn't. There's a
Okay.
book I read that was written by a Secret Service agent. It was very, very enlightening. I did a lot of research, but the way that I ended up coming up with the idea to even write a Secret Service agent, we were in Virginia Beach. I was getting ready to be on the 700 Club the next morning, and we were in the lobby, and somebody had told us that a political figure was going to be coming that night, and we were just standing around the lobby, and in walks these Secret Service agents. I mean, they're all in suits, black suits, and they had sunglasses on, and I'm pretty sure Bad to the Bone was playing in the background. It was it was like, and my husband had the foresight to take a couple pictures. I was too busy going, what am I going to write about next? But the whole idea came to me pretty quickly, of a troubled Secret Service agent who, I mean, what makes somebody take a job where they have to throw themselves in front of somebody else and basically just sacrifice their own life for somebody else? What a what an incredible thing, and what kind of person does that, signs up for that? And so I came up with Wyatt, and really liked the way he turned out.
I like Wyatt. Yeah, he's a good guy. So, um, see, we're working on some questions here. I can see some scurry and writing over there. So, we talked on your setting in this series, but in a lot of your series, your settings are almost a story on itself. I mean, do you travel a lot to find new settings, or is it more like this one where you're like, oh, I was in a lake home, we were rebuilding sort of thing? Do you just stumble on them, or do you specifically go find them?
I go find them. When I'm getting ready to come up with a proposal for my publisher, I usually have 4-book contracts. So I need a series setting before I even write the first word for anything. And so, in fact, before I even usually have a story idea at all, I'm picking the setting. And so I usually turn to my Facebook friends, and I get on my Facebook page and I ask. I always like the small towns. Those who read me know I like the small town setting. I have really been enjoying the South. I've been in the South for 8 or 9 books now. It's been a while. I'm just loving the South. So, and I don't really plan on leaving it anytime soon. I just love it. But so I asked my Facebook friends, small town in the South, where would it be a perfect place to set a book? And then I get flooded with different towns. And so I take the names of the towns and I look them up on Safari and just look around and see the pictures until I come up with usually several in a small circumference, so that it's a place I can visit and see 5 or 6 towns to kind of look at them in person and get the feel for them. And that's the way I've been doing it for quite a while. But I do go to the towns, and usually my husband is tagging along with me and taking a lot of pictures for me and thinking of things that I don't. And so, yeah, I go to the towns, and I've been doing that for a long time. I don't think there's a better way to. Uh, it has to be alive in my head before I can bring it alive on the page. So I think that that's if the setting feels sort of like a person, or like if it comes alive, that's why. I don't think you can do that as well unless you go there and get a feel for the way people talk, and just the things that happen there. You know, you pick up things from people, you pick up ideas, you listen. What are the sounds that you hear in this town? What are the smells you smell in this town? And it's going to be a little bit different everywhere.
That's, you know what, and that makes perfect sense because you feel like you are there with you, when you read your books. So, um, thank you for that. I saw a quick question. I don't know if they're writing it down, but they said, do you take the towns you go in and combine it into one town? Because you said you visited 5 or 6. Do you combine them all into one town, or do you focus on one town eventually?
Ideally, I find a town that is pretty much what I want it to be for the story. Um, that's that's pretty much how I do it. Sometimes the series I'm currently writing, the town that I am modeling my town after is not quite what I want it to be. So of course, that's why you make it fiction. You can make your fictional town anything you want it to be. I want my town to be a little larger. I can make it a little larger. And if there's no photography store in my town, I can add it if I want to. So that's the glory of having a fictional town. I can really make it what I want. I do try to hone in on one town, but it doesn't always work out that way.
Awesome. So I did get a question. What is the or this, yes, excuse me. Let me try that again. What is the setting for your next series, since we're talking setting? And please share the title because I love it.
Okay. Well, the next book that I have coming out is in April, and it's called Bookshop by the Sea. I love it too, and I super love the cover. It's just gorgeous. I think it might be my favorite. But it is set in North Carolina, the South, of course, on the shore, and it's really it's a second chance story, which I absolutely love. There's something about a second chance story that I feel that the stakes are a little higher because the characters have a past together. There's more tension when they come back together because something bad happened to break them up, of course. And this book has the added feature, of course, the bookshop. My heroine is getting ready to finally follow her dream after having pretty much sacrificed most of her teenage years taking care of her ill mother and then kind of parenting her younger two siblings. So she is finally able to pursue her dream. And of course, who interrupts all of this but the hero that she has never really stopped loving. So there's lots of tension there because he kind of left her in the lurch, and they end up getting stuck together in a hurricane. I love a good crucible. So they get stuck together in a hurricane, and it's a lot of fun, but it's also, I think, an emotional story. So I hope readers like it.
I'm looking forward to it. And um, a bookstore on the sea, that would probably be a retirement dream for me. So
Yeah,
um,
not too shabby.
no, that's pretty nice. So let's see, we are getting flooded, so we might jump around a little bit. One
Problem.
person does ask, do you have a favorite series that you have written? Kind of
Oh,
like asking your favorite child, I know.
yeah, it is a little like that, but I don't have a favorite child, but I do have, I would say my favorite series is the Bluebell Inn series and also the Chapel Springs series, which is set in my home state of Indiana.
Well,
That's
let me
not
know when you're
why.
ready to. What? I'm
That's
sorry.
not why it's my favorite, but it just happens to be set in my home state.
Yeah, that works out good. So when you're ready to write one about, Lake Michigan, let me know. We
I
have
think
lots
that
of
would be
small
a great
towns.
setting.
Definitely. So, somebody wants to know, did you always want to be a writer? And when did you get started?
That's a good question. Okay, so I can't say that I wanted to write fiction when I was younger, but I did love, love, love to read fiction. I was that girl in study hall who tried to get her homework done really fast so she could stick her nose in a book.
I don't know anybody like that at all.
Yeah, I'm sure nobody here understands that. But so yeah, I forgot the question.
That's awesome. Did you always want to be a writer, and what got you started?
Okay, so I wrote a little bit of poetry that I
Oh,
would have been too embarrassed to show anybody in high school, but I didn't start writing until I was, well, it was 1996, so it was a long, long time ago. That's when I had wanted to write a book for a few years, but I had kids. I had two young boys, and I just kind of put it on the back burner. And then I got a call that my grandfather was going to pass away soon. So I went to go see him. And as I was just sitting there, it really dawned on me that someday I'm going to be there too. And I didn't want to miss out on something that God had for me. So I felt very compelled to start my first book, which I did within maybe 2 weeks of my grandfather's death. And
wow.
that was in 1996. And in 1998, that book was published as Stranger's Bride. I I'm definitely not ever going to go back and read that because I've learned a lot since then, and it would just drive me crazy. I'm sure that I couldn't go back and fix it, but somehow the Lord saw to it to get it published, and I've been writing ever since.
Well, interesting. Wow. And you know what? I bet you your grandpa is very proud that, that was um, not that his passing, but him himself was kind of that inspiration to that. So,
Yeah, that's pretty neat. My
yeah.
grandfather was a godly man, and I felt like he had always done what God wanted him to do, and which further compelled me to do what God wanted me to do.
Yeah, what a legacy. That's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. That gives you stuff to think about. So,
Yeah.
um, so I've had a couple people. One of the questions, and we should talk about it anyways because it's just the coolest thing. You have three Hallmark movies from your book, so congratulations on that. That's
Yeah.
exciting, and they're always fun to watch. You will be pleased to know my husband loves Hallmark movies.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, he's the one that gets me to watch them, so I think that's
That's
hilarious.
great.
But somebody wants to know if there's any update from Hallmark. Like, is there going to be any more of your books going to be from Hallmark? And um, any of those fun behind the scenes things?
Okay, well, so far I don't have another option yet. There's been a little bit of interest. I don't know if that's going to go anywhere, but I have another book that has been optioned. Option just means the production company is interested in making the movie, and they basically rented the rights to that book, and they have so long to produce a movie once they option it. So um, I have, let's see, it's The Wishing Season that has been optioned. It's probably been 3 years now, with a
Wow.
production company who wants to bring it to digital first. So something like
Oh,
Hulu or Netflix or Amazon Prime. I know it's been made into a script. I know they're currently seeking um, the right venue for it, like Netflix or Hulu or whatever. And so I'm just kind of waiting. It's boy, I thought publishing was slow, and then I met film. The film industry is a
it's very
snail's
slow.
pace. Yes.
So, oh, interesting. So, um, what was one of your favorite things? Now, and I have to ask because I don't know, were you on set at any time when they were filming?
Yes. So the first movie I was not able to get on set for. The second and third I was. My husband and I went out to Vancouver. That's where they filmed most of the Hallmark movies, and we were able to go on set for a day. That was a lot of fun. Everybody is so nice on set, from the crew to the actors to the producers. They're just really, they welcomed me and made me feel very comfortable in what an introvert might feel a very uncomfortable situation. But it was an opportunity not to be missed. I mean, and the chance for an author to go and watch her book being adapted right in front of her eyes, and to see the characters that used to be in her head and now they're moving and talking and saying words that you wrote. That is just definitely an opportunity that I wasn't going to turn down. So we uh,
Definitely.
we were able to get a cameo on both of those movies. So my husband and I both had this little snippet in each movie. And the second one, it was, let's see, Christmas on My Mind, which was just this past Christmas, and it filmed last fall, and we are in the Christmas tree lighting where the whole town comes together for that Christmas tree lighting moment. And my husband is 6'4" and I'm 5'2", and everybody around me was kind of 5'2". They were my kind of people. And the director was looking at the camera work, and he said, "That big guy has to be moved to the back." They thought he was an extra at first. And so they're like moving him back, and I'm like, "Where are you taking my husband?" But they moved him way to the back. And so when you see the shot, he's the first thing you see. I mean, he's just bigger than daylight in the back. They tried to like disguise the fact that he's so much taller than everybody else, but there's just no disguising that.
That's awesome. Oh, now I'm going to have to watch it again, and my husband's going to wonder why I'm laughing the way through the movie. So
Yes, we laugh every time we see it.
I bet. So, oh, what a fun experience, though. That's now. Let me ask: did you help write the movie script too, or is that something they just took the book and kind of moved it over?
They have script writers who
Okay.
have been doing this for years and years. And I mean, it would take me so many years of studying scripts to really get. I mean, it's all dialogue and
That's
movement,
true.
and it's just very, very different than a novel. So I'll just let them do their thing, and I'll keep doing mine.
You keep writing the good books. We'll watch the videos afterwards. Um, so actually, I love this question. Somebody was listening to Lynn Austin speak, and she quite often talks about how the ending of her book, she knows it before she gets started, so to speak. I mean, she's got the research and all that, but do you work that way too, where you know the ending, or is it something that as you progress, you learn the ending? How do you work your way through a book?
That's a good question. And I will tell you that every author is different. I've even changed as I've evolved over my career. When I first started writing, I wrote a very detailed synopsis to the tune of like 11 single space pages of synopses. There was, but I did that because I think I was a little fearful that I would get on page 284 and realize this isn't going to work and have wasted all that time and have a deadline on top of it. So for a while, that's the way I wrote. And eventually it kind of started taking the fun out of it for me. I wanted to discover the story as I went and let the characters do what the characters would do. And so I started telling myself, you've got 15 books down. I'm sure you're going to make it through without reaching a point where you can't finish it. And so I kept, talking myself down off the cliff. And now I do that without so much fear at all. I like discovering the stories I go. I do know some before I go into it, but I probably only turned in a paragraph to my publisher. And I really don't know much more than that. I get to know my characters a little bit before I start writing, and they usually just get more fleshed out as I go, and they do things on the page that surprise me, and I'm like, oh, didn't know that. So that's the fun part to me, though. I know maybe some scenes that are going to happen down the road, but I don't necessarily know how I'm going to get to those scenes, so I kind of discover that as I go. Sometimes I know more or less how it's going to end, but sometimes I don't have a clue how it's going to end. It just depends on the story.
Awesome. Huh. And you're right. Every author I've spoken to, you guys all do it differently, but that's why we like your books, because you do it uniquely you. So
yeah.
You have romance in your book. It's part of the story. It's part of human nature too. But you also, like I had said before, you have the other issues. Which is more fun to write, the romance part, or is it harder to write the romance part, or is it all about the same?
That's a good question. That's kind of a tough question. Okay, so the romance part, I think, is the more fun part to write. But the issue, what my character is dealing with and needs to resolve in order to have a healthy relationship, that to me is like the motor in the story. When I'm trying to come up, I have that before I start the story, whatever that issue is, usually for each character, the hero and the heroine. I'm not happy until that issue is right, and I know it's right when it makes me excited to write the book.
Okay, that makes sense. So, somebody wants to know some of your favorite authors and or books that you read.
Oh goodness, there are so many. Isn't it wonderful
I
that
love
there
that
are so many
question.
authors?
There's
Well,
only 2,700 people that I could mention.
let's just do a short list here. So Francine Rivers is my favorite. Her Redeeming Love, I've read it more times than I've read any other book. I think it's 4 now. But
Awesome.
I'll be honest, the last time I read it, it's maybe 5 years ago, and I thought, I was so depressed when I finished it because I thought, I'll never write a book this good. I should just quit now.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
So that was probably why it was the 4th read and not 5th. But I do want to go back and read it again someday because it's just too good not to. So Francine Rivers right at the top of my list. My critique partner, Colleen Coble, can't write fast enough for me.
Yep.
I get her books by the chapter, so I have to wait sometimes a long time between 1 chapter and 2 chapters and 3 chapters. And it seems like she intentionally leaves her characters in a lurch before she goes on vacation for several days, and I get to find out how it's resolved. So we have to count Colleen in there. Rachel Hauck tells an excellent story. I really like her time slip stories.
Yep.
Especially. Susie May Warren is terrific. I feel like in the Christian market that probably she writes the most like me, with that where that
Yeah.
were most alike in story.
Yeah.
Although lately she's been writing a little bit more in the suspense and kind of a like the fire rescue people and but I really love her stories. Deb Rainey writes a great tale.
Yep.
Robin Lee Hatcher. I could go on and on. I'm
On and
just
on.
there's so many.
Yeah. Well, and you brought up an interesting point, and you guys that are writing in the Christian fiction realm, um, you guys all know each other, and you're all such great supports of each other, and that is a beautiful thing to see. Because you talk sometimes in some other of the markets, and it's just not there, and um, I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah, it's really a blessing to be part of such a small but not too small community. And yeah, I've seen nothing but support for each other. And I would like readers to know that, like, one on one, these authors are just, they just have such good hearts. We communicate by email and Facebook, and we support each other. And then, oh, when COVID is over, finally we'll be able to get together again because we have a great time when we gather for a writers' conference or whatever. It's like hugging the neck of an old friend, you get to see him again. And I really miss that.
I agree. I agree. We are not going to talk COVID, but I totally agree with that. We were talking, I don't know if our audience knows, but originally you were supposed to be in the store next week, Saturday. And you know this, and our audience can know this, is that Denise has a standing invite that as soon as we can start having authors in, she's going to be in. So she was a huge support to the store when COVID first hit and our website. And um, we don't know how else to thank her. So we really appreciate that. So,
Well, you guys
uh,
run a great store up there, and I can't wait to visit you in person.
yeah, me too. I think we've met once or twice now. And so getting a chance to just visit will be fun. So
It
I'm looking forward to it. So here's a fun question. How do you keep all your characters straight from book 1 to book 3?
Well, I have what I call a town Bible where I basically write down everything. I try to write down everything I've written in the books about each character. I'm not always so good at keeping that up to date, but otherwise, we would have a character's eyes changing from blue to brown and back to brown and to green and everything in between because I sure can't remember it all. I don't keep them straight very well. I'm constantly looking at that guideline. Um, just for even character names sometimes, some of the minor characters. But yeah, I try to keep that up to date, not real good at it. And when I finish a book, I try to go through and add all the detail that I added, but it's kind of a meticulous thing and things get changed in edits too. And I have to, sometimes I forget to change it. And it's kind of a challenge, I guess.
And those are things I thought that was a great question because I'm like,
Yeah.
I just assumed you got it all right the first time. So
Oh no, it's a real problem, real life problem.
let's see. Where's the one? Oh, somebody wanted to know. This is a good one for just an off book question. Where's the first place you plan to travel once we're able to again?
Well, that's easy because we were supposed to go there this past summer. We reserved a home in Banff National Park in Canada.
I
As
love Banff.
have you been there?
I have.
Oh, it's a bucket list thing for me. I've always wanted to go. So we I guess it was maybe March or April when I booked it, and I asked them to add a little clause that if we were not able to get there because of COVID, that we would get a year to use it, to use the house. So we are going to be going there next summer,
Awesome.
provided all is well. And yeah, so looking forward to that.
I will envy you that trip, but you are going to have a good time. That to be honest with you, it was one of my mom's favorite places. Her and my dad went back and forth there a couple times because she just loved it there. So Yeah, you'll have a good time, especially in the summer. I'm not a big skier or any of that, so I
No,
don't go
I'm not
nowhere.
either. We plan on doing a lot of hiking.
Oh, nice. Nice. Very, very nice. So, here's a question for you. How do you get motivated to come up with a story? Um, I think you can take that any way, where do you get your ideas for stories, which we did touch on. We talked about setting a bit, but and then with a follow-up question, let me add a little bit. Do you add you and yourself or your family to your stories?
Okay, you might have to remind me. You saw how I forgot the question before. Now you've thrown two at me.
Sorry. I'll hold on to them so I remember.
Okay, so family, I really don't like all the characters in my books. None of them came from people that I know. I don't know why that is. Maybe I should. I don't know, but they might have some little foible that I have or that somebody I know has. But as far as the character themselves, they become who they are as I'm writing, and I don't really model them after somebody who's real. And the next question was something about inspiration, like what
Yeah.
inspires me. Um, and the person who asked the question used the term motivation. Well, caffeine helps. That's my number one motivator. But as far as the ideas, they come from everywhere pretty much. When you're a writer, you've got this thing in the back of your mind where it's always something you're thinking about, just kind of humming in the background. So when somebody is telling me something that's happened to a friend of theirs, and I'm listening, and um, I'll give you an example. I have a friend who just last week we were talking about how with your grown kids you have to be careful. I make it a policy not to give my opinion unless I'm asked for it. And she said her father, when he has something to say, he'll set 2 pennies, 2 cents down on the table. And if the listener picks it up, he tells them what he thinks. He gives them his 2 cents worth. But if they don't pick it up, the conversation just goes on. No harm, no foul. And I thought, that's genius. I'm so going to use that in a book, maybe in
I
real
love
life.
that.
It's great, isn't it? And
Yeah.
as long as you're not like angry when they don't pick up the 2 cents, I think you're fine. But as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, how am I going to work that into my series? But so things like that end up in my books. I write in a coffee shop, so sometimes I overhear things. I'm just being honest. And, a little tidbit or two or some plot twist might enter the picture because of something I've overheard. But yeah, I mean, ideas are everywhere if you're open to them.
Yeah. Um, let's see here. We got a bunch of them again. Here's a good question. What are some of the books you plan to share with your grandbabies? If you had to
Oh,
look into
wow.
the future.
Like when my grandbaby is grown up.
No, I think they're asking for like if they, well, you know what, you told me and I can't remember how old your grandbabies are.
Well, I only have one at the time and then one on the way, but my little granddaughter is about 18 months. Maybe not even quite.
Congratulations. How
I
fun.
think she's adorable and she loves to read. Um,
Awesome.
she was just over at our house yesterday, and she went over to the other end of the sofa and sat down with a book, and the blanket, which actually was my blanket, had fallen on the floor. And she's not verbal enough to tell me to pick it up, but she's pointing at it, and I know what she wants. She wanted me to pull it up over her and get all cozy so she could read her book. And I thought, well, I'm perfectly happy to assist you with this. This is a wonderful thing. So as far as books, I guess I would turn to one of my childhood favorite series, which is the Laura Ingalls Wilder series, the Little House books. I read them many times over, loved them. I remember reading one out loud to my son. He didn't seem to be as enthralled with it as I was, but yeah, that would probably be one I would start with.
Yeah, that's a good series. I enjoyed that as a kid also. So, Let's see. Oh, that one we just asked. That's what I get for putting them in the wrong pile. So, um, is your home, and I can see the background, so I think I know part of this, but um, is your home filled with books, and what encourages you to read? Like,
I
do
don't really
you
need encouragement to read.
kind of thought that too, but I thought it's kind of an interesting question because I mean, I know you probably read for research,
Mhm.
but is there something that, do you do it to learn only, or do you do it for entertainment, or do you do it for both?
Um, I rarely read to learn other than for research or Bible or devotion. Um, I almost never read nonfiction except for the Bible and devotion, and of course, research. Mainly, I'm reading for pleasure. I love to. Is there a better way to unwind at the end of the day? If there is, I don't know of it. I love to read to unwind. It's my favorite thing to do. There's just, I mean, what good reader hasn't fallen asleep with a book in their hands? And that's, that's no, black mark on the book. It's just, you just don't want to put it down. And it's always one more chapter. And it's a wonderful thing. I love to read.
I agree, and you and I read for the same reason, and I have a terrible time reading nonfiction books. Like you, other than the Bible and devotionals, it's harder to do. So,
Yeah, I agree.
um, but so I was had the I know I asked you earlier before we went on camera about the genre, because some people put your books like straight in the romance, but I struggle with that. Is there something like a genre you would say it belongs in more so? Partly because of what you include in your books.
Right. My agent always says romance with elements of women's fiction, but I don't think that's a genre. But that's
Yeah,
kind of
that's a big
right.
thing.
It is. I know that's a little wordy. I don't think that really fits, but um, I think that's a good description of it. And I don't think there's a really a better category. I guess you could put it in a women's fiction category, but I think there's too much romance to really, that the romance is the main thing. I try to keep the romance the main thing, and I like it that way. So I guess romance is really the best category for it. But I think I do attract women's fiction readers also, because I do like to go deeper into some of those issues, because we all have issues, and we can learn from characters. It's a whole lot easier than learning in life.
It is, and it helps you experience things that you're not going to experience in
Yes.
everyday life. So, somebody wants to know, and if you don't want to share, you do not have to, but they want to know how many rejection letters did you get before you got your first contract?
Oh,
I
I
don't
don't
know why they want to know that, but
I don't mind sharing. Maybe they're a writer and they've gotten their fair share. I want you to know I've been there too, and every publisher that there was for Christian books in 1996, well, probably 1997 by the time I was submitting it, every Christian publisher except for Barber rejected my book.
okay.
I have been rejected by every Christian publisher. So, except for Barber. So,
Yay
Barber,
for Barber.
yeah, Barber, God love him, saw something there, I guess, because I didn't have a clue if I had what it took to be a writer. Did not know. I put the book out there feeling like, well, if I have any talent, I guess I'll get published. And if I don't, then I won't. And I didn't really realize at the time that writing is a craft, and I was going to get better over time. I was going to learn more, and it was going to get better. And I make sure to tell new writers that, because that's very important. Just because you don't get your first book published, or if you get a ton of rejection letters, don't quit, and don't necessarily keep working on the same book. It's okay to not get the first book published and to move on to something else. It is okay to do that, and you will get better. You keep learning and studying the craft and practicing the craft, and you'll get better. And it's the disciplined and the persistent writer who gets published.
Exactly. And thank you for sharing. I was going to ask you to share words of wisdom with the writers to be or want to be writers. And I think those are brilliant ones right there that, so thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So, and we must have some writer to be's or writers on board here because I have one that has asked, do you have writing slumps or, where you hit a roadblock and what do you do to get around them or through them?
Okay. Yeah. So I have a book due every 6 months. So I really don't have time for a writing slump. So that's my motivation is deadline.
Yeah, you don't need caffeine. Fear, just fear.
Here, it works. But so I have a 6 page a day goal, which I almost always meet. And if I find myself getting stuck, it's usually I don't know what's going to happen next. And when I really get stuck with that, I either call my critique partner, Colleen, because she's reading my book chapter at a time. And she knows just where I am. And I'm like, I don't know where to go next. Should I do this? Should I do this? And she can talk it through with me. Or I'm a visual person, so sometimes I just get out a piece of paper and I write down all the things that could happen next. And usually the one that wins is the ones that I see a bunch of dominoes falling after that happens. And I like events to happen that way in a story where this domino gets pushed over and oh, a whole cascade of events follows. And that makes it for good reading, but it also makes for easy writing because I'm not constantly trying to make something happen. I'm not trying to manufacture problem after problem. It's just this happened and boom, we've got this whole domino effect going on.
Oh, interesting. Let me ask, because I love asking this question of authors. If you could pick a different genre to write in, what would it be? So you write in romance. What would you, just for the fun of it, if you would use a pen name and write what?
Okay, well, I would probably go to women's fiction, which is most like what I write now, because I could still write the romance. I really do want to write the romance. I'm not really a historical reader, so even though I used to be, that my first books were historical actually, but I've been a contemporary reader for a long time now, so I don't see myself going to historical. Definitely not sci-fi. Um, even though
Oh,
my
come on.
no, I'm not going there. It's challenging enough to come up with a town that I've invented, much less a whole planet and all of this other stuff, this dystopian
I'll give it to
future
you.
or whatever. That's more than my brain could hold, I fear. So, my critique partner writing romantic suspense, you would think maybe I would go that direction, but I put suspense in a couple of my books that the plot just called for it. And I think it's been twice now. And I think after each book, I told Colleen, if I ever start talking about writing as another suspense thread in my book, remind me that I don't like it. So she did the second time, but I was like, I have to. The story, it just calls for it. And so she does kind of help me through that though because it's just not. I don't know how suspense writers do it. Juggle all of the red herrings and the who done it part of it. I like reading romantic suspense, but
Mhm.
I'm one of those readers who I'm perfectly happy to just go along for the ride. I don't have to sit there and wonder or try to figure out what happened or who did it. I'm I'm not even asking myself that question really. I'm just reading the book and enjoying the story. So yeah, that's probably not the genre for me, I'm guessing.
And here's a good question. Do you decide how many books are in a series or does your publisher?
Well, lately we've kind of been on a agenda where I write a standalone and then a 3 book series. Since my books are four book contracts, it's kind of worked out that way. I like it. I think the standalones offer readers who haven't read me kind of a space to get in without feeling the commitment of a whole series. So I like standalones for that reason. And also because, I don't have to have that town character Bible where where I'm trying to remember what was the name of the coffee shop I wrote about in chapter 1 of book one. So that's what we're doing. What we've been doing lately is the standalone and 3-book series. I'm comfortable with the 3-book series. I think sometimes they can get too long and readers can feel bogged down, or I don't want to start that series that's 7 books. It's too much, or they read the first few and it's just a lot to keep track of. And so I think 3 is a nice number.
Yeah, I always like 3-book series. They go well. So somebody wants to know if you like romantic movies, or are you more of a action adventure buff?
That's a good question. I do like romantic movies. You've Got Mail is my very favorite romantic movie. I've watched it numerous times. My husband knows that if he's channel surfing and he comes across You've Got Mail, he has to stop. So he tries to go real fast so I don't see that it's on. But yeah, I really love romantic movies. But lately I've been watching on Hulu the old show 24, which is
Oh,
very much an action series. It's got Kiefer Sutherland in it, and
yeah.
it's maybe 3% relationship drama, which I keep wishing they would do more of, but I understand it's an action show. So yeah, I've been enjoying that series, and it's got like, I don't know, nine seasons worth of episodes, so that's gonna take me a while, but I'm enjoying that.
Oh, good. Yeah, I think I made it through one series of 24, and then I don't know. I stopped watching it. Who
Yeah.
knows why? So, um, somebody does want to know, and I can't answer this question, but I bet you can. Is it possible to purchase all your books? I think they're wanting to know if some of your books are out of print.
Um, I should know the answer to that question, shouldn't I?
Oh, good. I don't feel bad now.
I think they're all available. There might be some of my earlier, no, the novellas they're up at least on ebooks. They're not available in print.
Okay.
And some of my really early books are not going to be available in print, but they're available as ebooks.
Oh, that's interesting. I
I
didn't
think
think of
that's,
the ebooks. Yeah.
yeah, I think all of them are available in ebook, except they're just not available in print.
Yeah. So, and to let you know, audience, we do carry out of print books here at Baker in our used book department. So if there's a specific one you're looking for, you can contact the store
Oh,
and you
that's
might
awesome.
have
I
it.
didn't know
So
that.
yeah. So, and to be honest with you, we carry almost all of the books that I can of Denise's. So um, if that helps, if they're available in print. So somebody wants to know, and this maybe you and Colleen should get together. Have you ever thought of co-writing something with somebody?
Actually, we did. Pauline and I, along with our 2 best friends, Kristen Billerbeck and Diane Hunt, we all wrote a collection together called Smitten.
I knew that. Oh, I'm embarrassed now.
That goes back a way. That's okay. But it was so much fun collaborating together on that. We actually ended up writing 3 Smitten books. Loved every minute of it. We lost Diane quite a few, I guess it's 5, 6 years ago now. I know it's hard to believe it's been that long, but yeah, but that was so much fun to do together. We each had a novella in each book, so we kind of made our own protagonists like us, so that when we were, because each of the characters when were in each of our stories, so you have to know how somebody's going to talk and what their personality's like and what they would say and what they wouldn't say. And the 4 of us knew each other extremely well, and I knew, I could pretty much put words in their mouth and they mine. And when we did that in Smitten, so it was a lot of fun to write together. That's a great series, and I think the concept of the series is really cool.
And you are correct. And I do humbly apologize. I love that series. It was so much fun. Because you're right. I could hear all 4 of your voices in each individual little series. So it is still a good question, but yeah, I'm glad I asked it because I'm glad we could mention that one because I do know that I can get a couple of those. So if somebody wants it. So we're going to be wrapping up soon. So if you have a question you've been waiting to send in, do it now quick because we're going to have to wander off here soon. So Let's see. I haven't read this one in advance, so I apologize if it's not a good question. We'll just
Okay.
ignore it and move on. Um, when you continually write bestsellers and gain more and more fans, how do you keep humble and down to earth? And in order, what keeps you grounded? Do you have a sister that might have sent you this? This sounds like something my sister would ask me.
That's great. No, I mean, I am who I am. I am who God made me. The writing is a gift He's given me. I can't claim credit for any talent that He put there because He put it there. Um, I guess I could try to claim credit for my discipline and the work I put into it, but He put the drive in me to do that. So I just really can't take credit for it. So uh, when you realize that, it's pretty easy to stay humble.
Yeah, that's a beautiful answer. That's a good reminder too. So as we're wrapping up here, can you describe to us your favorite reading spot? Where do you like to read?
That's a great question. There's really no bad place to read.
True.
But, I would say my favorite place is in bed.
Oh,
I like to
okay.
read in bed.
Yeah. And then the book hits you in the forehead as you fall asleep.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
I see you've been there too.
Yes, yes. I actually one time I had the corner of a book hit me like right here and I had a black eye for a couple days. And
No.
and when it's a woman with a black eye, you always get that weird look like, should we ask if you're okay?
Yeah, and you're walking with your husband and you're feeling bad that everybody's
Yeah.
thinking he did it. Yeah. That's
And nobody believes you hit yourself in the head with a book.
a book.
Nobody. So, but anyway, so,
But you work in a bookshop, so that makes it a little more plausible.
right. Yes, I dropped it off the top shelf.
Fell off the shelf.
Comp. So I have got to say this was a joy. So fun getting to know you even better. I look forward to when we can do this in person, prayerfully and hopefully soon. But yes, I love doing this. So I thank you for joining us and being willing to go with this adventure.
It was
This
a lot of
virtual
fun.
stuff. Well,
Thank
good.
you.
I'm glad you
Thank
had a
you
good
so much
time.
for hosting me, taking care of all the technical details, and letting me just show up. It was a lot of fun, and I appreciate all the readers who took the time to be here.
Yes, definitely. So we're going to wrap it up here. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We sure had a good time. Denise, if you get a chance, read some of the comments. They have been just flooding through here. So
Yeah.
they've been very kind, and we hope to see you again soon.
Yeah, that would be great.
You bet. And you have a good night, and good night, everybody. And hopefully we'll see you soon on our next virtual author visit.
Yeah, good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everybody.